What is up, fishing world? Trevor Wagner here. It's Tackle Tip Tuesday. Time to drop some tips. Today, we're continuing with some kayak safety. So today's kayak safety tip that we're going to talk about is my dry bag. So when I'm talking dry bag, I'm talking about a bag that is on my kayak, that again, hence by the name, dry bag, will hold stuff in it that will stay dry in case I capsize, and stuff like that, and I need to get into that bag. And it is, for me, well, we'll just jump right in and I'll show you what's in there, and we'll talk about all the stuff that's in there and why it's in there and why it's so important to have a dry bag on your kayak. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I got it down here. All right, this is my dry bag. As you can see, it's not a brand new dry bag. I've had this thing probably for 4 or 5 years now. Haven't had any issues. I water test it probably 2 or 3 times a season just to make sure that there's no leaks in here and everything is still good to go. And it does float a little bit, so therefore it's not going to sink to the bottom if something was to happen. But currently, I let my dry bag sit in my black pack behind me in the area where, like, I have a little Nakawa battery in there. I have extra drive propeller, my scale, a couple other tools that sit in there for the just in case kind of things. So, and this is one of those just in case kind of things. So like I was saying, my dry bag, as we go through it, I'll show you what we got. So my dry bag is one of those fold down ones. Again, these really aren't that expensive to get, but they are really, really handy. So as you can see, it's actually pretty large when you open it all up. So first thing, right on the top, because this is one that I access quite frequently, and that is my first aid kit. So again, my first aid kit's right on the top of there. I don't want this to get wet. That is why it stays in my dry bag. And it's in that black pack behind me. It's right on top, so if I get a cut or I need to take care of something on the water, it is easily handy for me to grab. I'll do a video maybe next week or the week after next when I'm continuing the safety stuff, and I'll open this up and show you all the cool stuff that's inside of my first aid kit. But for now, just know first aid kit, one of those things that's right on top. It's going to be then we have to unpack this thing. All right. Next up. All right. So the theme of my bag is if I got in trouble and I tipped and I got in the water, especially this time of year, I'm filming this. If you're watching this, no matter what time of year you're watching it, but if you're watching this, I'm filming this in February. So your water temperatures are still in those 40s and 50s. Some places it's even colder than that. We're talking mid to high 30s. So if you fall in that water and you get out, first thing you got to do is you need to get to shore and you need to change your clothes and you need to start warming up. So that's going to be kind of a theme as you see as I start pulling this stuff out. So first, military guy, this is standard issue was standard issue in the military. I don't know if it still is, but a nice little beanie cap. Now this thing, again, a lot of your heat loss goes to the top of your head. So when I'm on the shore and I'm stripping down, I am putting this hat on along with the hat. Another military piece of equipment. This is a baklava. Again, net gator, what you guys are used to. But this thing is super thick. It's not very thin. This is designed for cold weather. When you're out there, goes around your neck. I could pull it up over my face, my ears, along with the hat, to keep my head nice and warm. Again, to start getting my temperature back regulated so I can function and hopefully either A, stay alive or get rescued. Well, stay alive is the main part. So that's what I'm doing all this. So again, keeping my head warm, keeping my neck warm, keeping my face warm. So I'm going through. All right. Also have a towel. Again, having a towel on your kayak, people are like, well, you're on the water. It's really handy. I really like having a towel on my kayak. One, again, if I'm on the shore and I've got wet clothes on and I'm taking them off and I'm trying to put my dry clothes on, I don't want those to be wet real quick to give myself dry off really fast. to get these dry clothes on. So therefore, again, I'm not sitting there wet. Also, this comes in handy, if you need to quickly wash up, clean up, stuff like that. So I always change it out, but I have a towel in the pile. All right, next up. All right, long sleeve shirt. Again, trying to get the core body temperature down. All right, I also have a plain white t-shirt. Now you could go with any kind of t-shirt, but I like a plain white t-shirt. Again, my core body temperature, I need to start getting it up. So I will layer both of these. I'll put the white t-shirt on first, put the long sleeve on the top. Again, more layers to try to get me warm, get my body temperature going. Again, hypothermia sets in really, really quickly. So a white t-shirt. This also comes in handy as a little first aid thing. If I need to pack something, if I have a real gashing wound, I could cut this guy up with some scissors that I have and use it in a pinch. Funny story, get off on a little tangent. When I was in Korea, this was back in this would have been 1994. Me and a few of our buddies went out one night. We were out, drinking, having a good time one night. And there were some local teenage boys there that, got a little feisty and started throwing stuff. And one of them threw a brick and hit my friend in the back of the head and split his head pretty good. Now we're all medics, so they did that, then they took off, and funny story is the police finally caught him and we got him all in trouble. But my friend had a big old gash in the back of his head, so I actually carried a knife on me and I cut my white t-shirt that I was wearing underneath. So I cut my white t-shirt up, got it up, gauzed it up, put it on the back of his head, got him to the ER, got him all stitched up, and he was good to go. But again, never underestimate the power of a white t-shirt in case of emergency. So always carry that white t-shirt with me. All right, next up, nice good heavy pair of thick, you could go with sweatpants. These are more like cold weather working out running pants, so keep those in there for the legs. Long pair of thermal socks. Again, getting my feet dry, getting these on, running out of table space. As you can see, this bag holds a lot. Still not done. All right, next up, I have a big, huge thing of rope along with a carabiner. Again, inside my first aid kit, when you open it up, there's a thermal blanket. There's some other stuff in there. But it's always good to have rope and a carabiner on hand. And I have extra carabiners on my kayak as well in one of my toolboxes. I also have extra 550 paracord in there. So again, I always keep some spare inside of here as well, because you never know when rope comes in handy, and that carabiner also is a good lifesaver as well. And then looks like the last thing I have in here, in a bag, inside a bag, yes, it does say yak gear on here, but these really aren't yak gear things. These are emergency flares. So inside my dry bag, I also keep a set of emergency flares inside of here, because again, if I'm on a bigger body of water, a lake, or even going down a river, something happens, and I'm needing rescued, and I need to signal some people. Sometimes your whistle that you have, no matter how loud you think that whistle is, doesn't always work. Also, I think in my first aid kit, I have a mirror, but again, those mirrors are small. They're not very big. So I carry flares, not a flare gun, but actual flares, and these are waterproof flares. So even if I'm stuck on my kayak in the middle of somewhere and something's going wrong, I could pop these flares, they get in the water, they're still going to work, they still are fine. So again, you never, ever know. Never take safety lightly, is I guess the word that I'm looking for. I would rather be over prepared on the water in case of an emergency or if safety happens than knowing that I'm in a situation that there's a chance I might not get back to my family. So again, some of you may look at my dry bag and be like, wow, you really kind of went overboard on what you got in there as far as keeping warm. But let me tell you, I have flipped and I have went in the water. It must have been 2 years ago, It was late January, early February. Can't remember, somewhere around there. Water temperatures were about 45, 46 degrees. It was one of those situations. I wasn't bass fishing. I was actually catfishing. I had one of my front rods was up there, and it started doubling over, and it was bending down. The wind was blowing, so my kayak was moving. So my kayak was tilted a little bit, and I was reaching up. Again, that's how you flip it. A lot of times it's because you're reaching and, you're just seeing something happen and you just react. And that's what happened. The rod was going down and I was reaching for it. And as I was reaching for it to grab my rod, because it was kind of snagged and stuck, and with that kayak just turned just enough with that wind, as I reached, my shoulder went over the side, I went over the side, and I went into the water. Again, I always wear my life jacket, so I was able to stay up. I had a big old hoodie on, my life jacket. I did have some cold weather pants and regular water. I had some neoprene water shoes. So hit the water, but with my life jacket and everything, I was able to stay afloat. My kayak did flip, so I had to flip my kayak back over. Again, with the pedal drive, it's really easy. I just was able to grab the bottom where the propeller is, flip my kayak back over. I didn't lose much of stuff because I had most of the other stuff tethered down. The rod that was right there, I was able to grab it, put it in. I really didn't lose anything except the cooler that I had about 4 or 5 fish in that I was going to eat. So that was the only sad thing, was I lost the fish I was going to eat, but that's all right. I was able to get back in the kayak, and my truck was about 300, 400 yards away, so it wasn't too terribly far from the shore. So I was able to get back in the kayak, get over to where my truck was. I was shivering. I was shaking. I was able to land my kayak. I jumped out of the kayak real quick, grabbed my dry bag, grabbed that towel, dried myself off, put my clothes on. And there were some people up on the shore, and I didn't care. I knew I needed to get out of my clothes. If they saw me, if they saw what I had, they saw it. I didn't care at this point. I was more worried about getting warm. So I was able to dry off, get my warm clothes on, sat in my truck for a minute with the heater on, got my core body temperature back to where it needed to be, then got out, finished loading up my kayak, and drove home. But again, if I wouldn't have had this stuff, hypothermia probably would have set in, because the air temperature that day was probably in the high 40s, low 50s, compound with the water temperature that I had just got into and got out. So again, that could have been a very, very dangerous situation if I would have been farther away and I would have been able to make it back to my truck. And if I would not have had this dry bag with the stuff in there that I put in there, just in case. Because again, guys, safety is important. And I know there's a big push right now talking about your life jacket, which life jacket is number one safety thing everybody needs to. If you're a kayak fisherman, you need to wear it. If you're a boater and you're out there, on your boat, when that boat is moving outside your trolling motor, you need to have it on, because you never know what, if you hit a stump, something happens and you get thrown out. Now again, if you're fishing out of a bass boat and you're out there, I also highly suggest you have something similar to this stashed in your boat somewhere, because you never know when you're up on that front deck and you're there, something happens and you fall in that water. You need to have a way to get out and get dry and get well again as well. So it doesn't matter if you're in a kayak or if you're in a boat, I highly suggest everybody have a dry bag, have some dry clothes, have a towel, have some way to get warm, carry some rope, Maybe you don't want to have flares, but I always have flares with me, and a first aid kit and stuff like that, because again, you never know. And remember, you have people that are counting on you. You have your family, you have your friends that want you alive. So take these steps in the beginning before you go out to make sure that you could get back to your family. All right, guys, well, that is my dry bag. So my question to you out there in the fishing space, in the fishing world, do you carry a dry bag on you? And what's in your dry bag? Comment down below and let me know what you carry in your dry bag, or perhaps there's something I'm missing that you're like, dude, you need to carry this in your dry bag. Comment that down below too. Because again, we're out here together. We all want to be safe and we all want to catch some bass. All right, guys, with that said, that's it for this Tackle Tip Tuesday, or should I say Safety Tip Tuesday. Thank you guys for watching. If you can, like, subscribe, do all of those things. Really, this year is going to be a year I focus on the channel a lot and hopefully continue growing with you guys and growing with the fishing community that's out there. So, enough of me rambling. If you can, get out and fish. Catch some of those big bass. All right, guys, thank you, and we will talk to you next time.